Temps, can we start with Grace Swisinski? Obviously terrible news with her ACL. How do you sort of help her navigate her way through that?
Oh, we've got some support mechanisms in place at the club now, which I think are really helpful to all the athletes in terms of that kind of sports psych and well-being. So from that point of view, away from the football pitch, when it's going to become a struggle, which is usually sort of post-operation, there's a period where you can't really do a lot, and so supporting her in terms of as a person and how you go through that, I think is key from the club's perspective, but also I guess you could say we're lucky or unlucky, but we've had some people in that position of recovering from ACL recently with Alex in the men's, and obviously we've got Flea and Olivia with the women's team, so she's surrounded by people that know exactly what she's going through, and so we just have to help her through the journey now over the next sort of 9 months or so.
Are ACL injuries becoming a little bit of a talking point, a little bit of a problem in women's sport in particular?
Yeah, definitely a talking point and a problem. Too many. I read a statistic, there was 260 ACL injuries in women's football last year, so there's just way too many. So look, more research needs to be done. I'm not the medical expert as to why these injuries are so common, because it's a nasty injury, and it is like 260 odd across the season is common. So we've had 3 in 3 weeks in the ALeague, and I think from the ALeague's perspective we really need to look at longer pre-seasons to prepare the players properly, because we're asked to do it in 5 weeks with an international break in between, so that's really tough, and I think that does have an impact. And then we've also got to start looking at things like bigger squad sizes, larger benches, and things that we can do to support the female athletes. So yeah, when we have more research of like academic research about what we can do to support and help this, then obviously we'll be applying it. But at the moment it's one of those things where it's still a bit of a grey area, and no one's really too sure why it happens so often and what we can do to prevent them, because it's just, yeah, it's horrible. Like, it's season ending every time you get one, so it's just a horrible injury to have.
Hopefully there can be some decent research done. ALeague Longo back from her ACL.
Yeah.
Got half an hour off the bench the other day. What's her likelihood of playing more than that on Sunday, perhaps?
Yeah, I think we'll see a little bit more minutes. We've, again, just got to consider, she's come off the back of the ACL and kind of got back very quickly for the World Cup and was able to play that, but obviously didn't start any games or have long minutes, like 90 minutes. So we're just going to be cautious with like getting her back into 90 minutes and how long that takes, because for the best thing for her is that we still make sure that she's getting back fully, and we're not rushing that process too much, because we want her for the long term, right? So not necessarily starting, but potentially could start. But yeah, I would imagine kind of like 45 to an hour will be sort of like what we'll see, and then we'll just keep building from there.
And we can't do an interview with any of your players this season without them talking about small ball.
Yep.
Can you tell us what that might be?
Yeah, it's become a little bit of maybe a little bit more of a talking point than I thought. So yeah, it's kind of just the way that we're describing how we want to try and play, and it's about players being in tighter spaces and being able to pass shorter passes and be able to build through shorter passes rather than kind of more longer, expansive passes. So we've called it small ball, smaller spaces, smaller passes, and the ball moves quicker. So yeah, it's just kind of really a bit of a principle of the way that we want to play, and will really influence the style in which we're going to play. And I think we're starting to kind of see more and more of it as the games come out. It's been a gradual process, but over the 3 games it's just more and more time in the game where we kind of have that control of how we want to play, and so we're just going to keep building that, and hopefully you'll see that evolve. Yeah.
Western United on Sunday. Last season they beat the Phoenix in both matches. This is obviously a very different Wellington Phoenix side this season, but what do you see as their particular threats on Sunday?
Yeah, they're one of the better sides in the competition, like just based obviously last year making the grand final in their debut season. They got some big players. I think Hilary Bill's back as well now, and then obviously Hannah Keane had a strong season last year. They're sort of the 2 big names in that team, but they've got some talent. So yeah, we're going to have to be at our best to get points against teams like Western United. So yeah, there's I think we're very aware of what they're going to bring, strong, physical, like being good on the counter-attack this season, and they don't know when they're beaten. They keep going and keep going. So yeah, it's going to be a tough game, but I've kind of said it before, like we're looking at every opposition now for weak points and saying this is what we can do to hurt them. Let's focus on what we're doing against their system, against their structure, and let's focus on us winning the game and kind of them spending more time worrying about us. So I think that's the key message we've been given to the players all season. We believe we can beat anyone, so we've just got to do what we do well, and hopefully we can get the result.
Just one more from me. Last couple of weeks we've seen Mickey Foster come off at around about the 65 minute mark.
Yep.
Are you managing her minutes, or is that tactical?
No, managing minutes. Again, pre-season she pretty much missed the first three and a half weeks. She was over in France with her dad at the Rugby World Cup, so we gave her some leave early on, and then she went straight to the Ferns camp in Chile and come back, and we literally had her for a day before we went to Australia. So we're just managing, again, like we're just cautious. We've got 22 games now. We want the kind of the longevity here, so if you push too hard and then kind of load up too much, then you get potential injuries down the line. So it's just a management thing at this point in time. But what's been positive about that is the influence that we can have off the bench and some of the players that have been able to fill in those positions. Yeah, I think we've got a lot of positives out of it and good impact when subs have come on, but yeah, we'll be looking to sort of build Mickey up more and more.
Just go back to Grace's injury and the release. You spoke quite strongly about ACL injuries in women's football. I know you said you don't know why, but are there some things that are concerning you that you're seeing in women's football that might be contributing to these injuries?
I think what we've got to say is, like, at the moment we're speculating because we don't have any academic research like we've had with other injuries in football, because it's a relatively new kind of space. I think these injuries have been happening, and the science tells us that it's more likely to happen for women than men. So we're still speculating a little bit, but I really do think as a whole, like the best way I can sum it up is we're trying to apply principles that have come from men's football, professional football for 50, 60, 70 years, and apply them straight directly to women, and it doesn't seem to be working. So we've just got to think about how we work differently and use the science and the academics to help us understand how do we work differently with female athletes in this space. We're trying some new things this year with some female athlete health specific stuff around how it links to cycles and mental health and kind of injuries off of that. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of find out more ourselves around those type of things, but we've just got to think differently and outside the box around how we approach this, because you can't just pick up one thing from the men's game and just apply it straight to the women's game, and you've got to think a bit differently, because they are different athletes and the game is slightly different in terms of speed and obviously durations of season for the A-League as well, the men's league being longer. So we've just got, you can't kind of go like for like. I think we've just got to be a bit more specific. Yeah.
You also mentioned pitches and facilities. I don't know, have some of the things maybe not been up to standard in the A-League, do you think, for your mind?
I don't think the pitches are up to standard all the time. Like, we've been really lucky so far. Combank was amazing, and we always know that Wellington in Westpac is going to be amazing as well. So look, I think some of the pitches in the league aren't quite good enough, and I think like the multi-use venues obviously leads to that later in the season when rugby starts. We see a lot of the pitches tearing up, and I think that can definitely have an effect, but I don't think that's the one and only thing. So I think it's just a multitude of things that kind of lead to these things, and as a whole, like as a league, I think everyone's trying to strive for like the best type of stadiums, pitches and things. We just need to keep doing that.
And also for you as a coach, how do you then coax a player back from an ACL injury? That must be a challenge in and of itself as well for you.
Yeah, it is. There's a physical component to it, which is like building back strength and that kind of reliability on your knee, the twisting and turning, but then there's also the psychological side of things. When you've had that long out and it's significant, you're way more tuned in to kind of all the little tiny feelings that you get in the knee, and so psychologically you've also got to build confidence in kind of them being able to get back out there and do what they want to be doing. And so that's why it's not a specific length of time until you kind of get back playing again, because everyone's a little bit different in how they heal physically, but also mentally how much they want to push and how quickly. So it's a pretty individualised recovery process.
A couple of questions on Zoe Georgia stuff as well. Are you looking to replace long term for the rest of the season, Grace Swisinski?
I think it's an option. Yeah, it's something that we've started discussing, but yeah, by no means kind of anywhere with that at the moment. It's hard focusing on the games week in, week out, but yeah, it's definitely something that we'll consider as an option for us in terms of if we need to replace her in the squad. Yeah.
And how's Riley Foster's Achilles strain?
Much better, out training today fully, so that's great. Diving around, bringing the personality back. So yeah, really good. So it's great to have her back. So it's nice for her to be, I guess, potentially back in contention. We'll just have to see again how she holds up after today, and then we've still got another session tomorrow, and then we'll make a call. Yeah.
And playing at Porirua Park as well. Looking forward to the change of scenery.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We actually had a few seasons with the men's reserves there at Porirua Park, and it was always great. The pitch is nice. It's had a revamp since the World Cup, so we're looking forward to it. It should be a good surface, but I'm really looking forward to the kind of tighter crowd and the stand being close. And yeah, hopefully if we can get sort of 2,000 people there, pack the grandstand out, get some atmosphere around the pitch, then it could hopefully become a little cauldron for us, a little fortress. So yeah, it's going to be really cool to play there, and yeah, I'm excited about kind of the atmosphere that it can create. So hopefully the fans feel the same and they can make some noise and help us. Yeah.